All right, folks. Good evening. Hello, hello. Let's get started. Hello, friends. Welcome back to Mondays with Marv. Actually, this is the Uncle Marv podcast, and I am your host, Marvin B. Here Monday night, the first week in May. And I want to say hello and thank you for joining me. This is the live show that sometimes shows up here on Facebook and the YouTube. However, if you always want to catch the show, whether you can watch it or if you just want to listen on your phone in the car, you can head over to unclemarv.com, and up at the right-hand corner of the browser, you can click follow and find your favorite way to listen to the show, whether it's a podcatcher, the website, YouTube, Facebook. And anytime that I have a show that goes live, you'll get notification. Anytime that we release an audio version, you can catch it and listen to it at your leisure. And I'm starting a few minutes late today. One of my tasks when I got home from work was to clean the pool again. And if you live in South Florida, you know that if you have an outside pool without one of those screen thingies on it and leaves and bugs and stuff get in your pool all the time, you got to keep it clean. And with the national shortage of chlorine, the pool has been a little fuzzy lately. So we are cleaning the filter more than ever. So I needed to do that before I could eat, feed the cats. But I am here and ready to do the show. So I don't have a guest this evening. We were going to do an off and on week. Last week, I want to say thank you to Ellen, the basketball star Aiken, from the class of 85 of Satellite Beach, for coming on the show. Thank you very much. I've got some shows coming up next week and the week after that I will announce here. But first, I want to do some shout outs because I had some people that hopped on the Facebook Messenger and sent me some words of encouragement after hearing about my mom and our family stuff. So I want to say thank you. One of which, Ronnie Justin, who I had a nice little conversation with. And one of the things that Ronnie mentioned was that he worked at Kmart with my mother in Indian Harbor Beach. And I almost want to say who didn't, because it seems as though just about everyone in Satellite Beach worked with my mom, either at Kmart or at the hospital. And it was interesting to hear my mom talk about all of you people. She didn't remember everybody's names exactly. She didn't remember when they went to school. It was just that, so-and-so, they went to school with you. And I had to say, Mom, that wasn't always the case, that I know every single person that went to my school, but it happens. So Ronnie, I want to say thank you. I also had some conversations with Veronica Rudan and look to be having her on the show in the coming future. And then also Elise Roth Tedeschi, you have heard her on the show before, chatted with her. I even had some conversations with Mike Coe. And Mike is one of those people who lives here in Fort Lauderdale, probably 15 minutes from me. And in over 20 years of being here, we have never, and I mean ever, run into each other. And we have been talking about it since before COVID. And I sent him a message and said, dude, when are we going to make this happen? And he said, my bad, I'm in the Bahamas, but we'll make it happen soon. So hopefully that will happen probably next week while the wife's away, because I may have a few hours that I can squeeze something in. She is heading back up to Georgia. There is another family event up there They will be at the cabin in the mountains of Georgia, in Ranger, Georgia. Um, Talking Tree, I believe, is the actual mountain community name, but that's where she will be. And her son, Josh, will be there, my stepson. Her dad, her sister, I think, is driving over. And of course, brother in law Gary is hosting and doing all of the wonderful things there. I will not be joining because I've got to work. Somebody's got to pay for all this stuff. Plus, I also have some busy stuff of my own. We will, of course, be traveling up to Melbourne next week for Mother's Day and visiting with mom. And I don't know yet what we're doing, but apparently it's my responsibility to find out. So I'll be making a call up to the Queen Bee to figure out what is happening this Sunday. I will also be, the end of this month. Is it the end of this month? Yes, I think it is the last week end. So Friday, May 27th to May 29th, I will be in Orlando, but I will be there. It's not exactly work, but it's work. It's a conference that I'm going to called Podfest. It is a thing that us podcasters do, and I know that some of you didn't quite understand what a podcast was when I started doing this one during the middle of COVID. Basically, I try to describe it as internet radio, but podcasting is a whole huge industry that has blown up over the last 10 to 15 years. And there are a lot of people doing a lot of things with podcasting. And so that there is a whole community, there is several conferences, and a lot of people making some good money in podcasting. The number one genre right now is the true crime podcast, which this is not that. But another category that is big is the tech category. So I do have another podcast. So those of you that think, though, I just started doing this and making it up as I go, well, I do make it up as I go. But for the last 5 years, I've been doing a podcast for my business in the tech industry where I talk with other techs and we share tips and stories, helping each other run our businesses. So that's how I got into podcasting. And then it, of course, spilled over into this. There will be more things coming along with this podcast. So I wanted to also give an update on that because many of you are like, well, I can't always make it on Mondays, where there will be other things that will be coming up with the podcast. And I'm going to go ahead and spill the beans here because, well, my sister's already been spilling the beans and the wife has already been spilling the beans, but I'm going to show this right here. So about 2 months ago, I purchased this. And if you're watching on Facebook, whether live or in the replay, you are seeing a picture of a Cricut mug press. If you are not watching the video and you're listening to the audio, you can look it up pretty easily. Go to the website and either find the show or just go to Amazon or go to Cricut, Cricut. And this is a mug press. And what I got this for was that I had wanted to make mugs for my other podcast. And when I got around to searching for the price to make these, or I not make them, but to purchase them and buy them and do some other stuff, the price was outrageous. And I didn't want to buy, 100 mugs just to sit around. So I thought, why can't I find a way to custom make them when I need them? And there are sites that will do that for you. They'll custom make them and stuff. But I found this because I could also do different designs. So, of course, I showed this is my business podcast logo that I have on this mug. I can also put pictures on the mug. And if you are watching again, you can see that I've got a picture of the podcast logo up there. And so now I can make mugs whenever I want. So that was why I got that. And I also just recently purchased this. And if you don't know what that is something called a heat press. And a heat press is used to make things like t-shirts and pillows and I don't know, things that you want to stick screen printing type stuff on. And just to give you an example of what I mean, my first creation was this right here, which is a shirt that I am holding up. And again, if you're not watching the video, I apologize, but I have a t-shirt up where I had gotten a heat transfer label of Life's a Beach. And I pressed this on to the shirt myself, and it is nice and smooth and embedded into the shirt. So it's not one of those, iron on patch type things that makes the shirt all puffy and stuff. So I made my first shirt, and I will be doing this for something else coming up that I will be going to this summer, July 4th weekend. I will be heading up to Orlando, Florida again, where I will be attending the Thomas family reunion. And no, that is not my name, but my grandparents, their names were Thomas and Hayes. My mom's maiden name was Hayes before she married and became B. So her family is the ones that we are actually doing this reunion for. So it would be my mom and a bunch of her family. And if you've heard me talk about her before, she had somewhere between 12 and 16 brothers and sisters. I don't know the exact number, but we will be gathering in Orlando for that. And so I will be creating and making the t-shirts for that reunion, and kind of keep that off to some sort of business venture down the road. So I wanted to bring that up to just, of course, let you guys know I'm heading to Orlando and talking about some of the side hustle things that I'm doing. That's why I'm so busy. Um, Out of this will come probably another podcast, either category or a completely different show, where I will be talking about crafting. And that is because if you recognize those things that I showed, the Cricut mud press and the heat press, the one thing you would think of is crafting. So I've always already spoken with, our good friend Mary, who has a nice crafting business. And so we'll be talking about that. I'm going to be using that to learn from people in the industry. How do I create things and make money with my heat press and my mug press? So be making a whole lot of t-shirts. So maybe down the road, if you need custom t-shirts, you'll let me know. I'm also going to be doing a little bit of a health journey. So I know that I normally don't get on here and share too much in terms of personal information, but I will do just a tad bit tonight. So a lot of people talked about the COVID-19 and using that as a measurement of the number of pounds they gained during COVID. Well, I think I had a little bit more than 19. Of course, that probably started before COVID, probably 5 to 7 years ago when I stopped playing basketball. That was probably the last of my exercise that I did. For most of my life, I've been involved in some sort of sports or activity. So I was always skinnier than I probably should have been, but very active, very healthy. Well, in the last 5 to 7 years, that has not been the case. I have put on some pounds, and I have now noticed that it's very hard to suck in the stomach when picture taking. So I think it's time for me to figure out a way to lose that COVID-19. Now, the wife and I have done some things on our own, and sometimes it's worked and sometimes it hasn't. Some weight came off, then it came back, and blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to now start a little journey myself in figuring out what it is that I need to do for me and my body to, I don't want to say get back into shape, because I think I'm past that. I'm not one of those people that, wants to harken back to the days of glory and I want to be fit. But I also don't want to be one of those people that, you see on those commercials where they talk about, I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm in better shape now than I was in high school, because it will never be the case for me. I was in really good shape back then, high school, college, and grad school, where I, played ball almost every day, was in shape, and I'm not looking to get back to that. I'm just looking to stay healthy, look better, and get to the point where when I wake up and start to head out of bed, I don't like crack something and fall or something like that. So I'm going to be looking at that, and I will be having some people on to help talk about, the usual things, diet and exercise. But I'm also going to have some people that will help talk about the mental side of health, the motivation that we need to keep going, uh, the physical and psychological things around health, whether it's exercise, whether it's diet, um, anything to do to maintain a healthy lifestyle. We'll be looking at. I'm going to have everybody on. I'm going to have regular normal people. I'm going to have doctors on. We're going to look at all sorts of diets. I said that I would never consider yoga, but I may have to. So that is even on the table. So those are things that I'm going to be doing here in the coming weeks and months. So like I said, this podcast will get busy. So again, you'll have the regular. This is probably going to transition into something called the reunion podcast, where I sit and chat with people from my past and other guests and people I've met along the way. And then I'll have the crafting podcast stuff, and then I'll have the health journal stuff. So that's where things are looking um, over the next few months. So I think, yeah, that's going to do it for tonight. A short show, just kind of another update show. As I mentioned before, I will be back in the coming weeks with some of the guests that I mentioned earlier. And this Wednesday, let's see, Wednesday, Friday, I have lunch, I believe, with Ross, Amy Coon's father, the friend of mine that passed away in Chicago. And Aaron, we're going to have lunch. And I think I'm going to be getting some stuff from the Coons estate. So if that happens, I will update you and let you know next week. That is going to do it for this episode. I thank you very much for tuning in and listening. Please, if you haven't subscribed and you just, popped onto this by accident, head over to unclemarv.com, click on the follow button at the top right of the screen, and find one of the solutions that will help you follow the show. And especially if I start adding these other features in here and you want to just look at the health stuff, or you want to look at the crafting stuff, if you want to contribute, if you want to tell me, dude, you're doing it wrong, or hey, let me show you what I've done, reach out. Let me know. On the website, there's a contact page. Send me a message. You can find me on the Facebook with the messenger thing. And I'm happy to learn any and all things. So I'm going to bid you all farewell tonight. So long, farewell. I will see you again next week. And until next time, holla.